China troubles continue, with shipments of locally made cars plunging the month of July. This following a run of negative publicity and the recall of almost every car the company has sold in China.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nick, and this is Investing Against the Grain. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at a recent video clip from Bloomberg that has a lot of FUD in it, in my opinion, with regards to Tesla. And as we normally do on this channel, we'll bring some clarity and honesty to this video clip. We're also going to discuss some hot topics around Tesla right now, such as AI Day, full self-driving, some interesting tweets between Elon Musk and Cathy Woods, and we'll also go ahead and touch on the upcoming congressional bill that involves EV tax credits that could hurt or benefit Tesla. Now, in order to get this episode started, there's only one thing you have to do, and that's just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell. Unfortunately, though, we can't get started until you do that. So I'll wait. All right, appreciate it. Let's get into it.
China troubles continue, with shipments of locally made cars plunging the month of July. This following a run of negative publicity and the recall of almost every car the company has sold in China.
So let's just start there. First of all, they talk about Tesla China sales plunging, right? Plummeting. And then she goes into talking about how Tesla has had to recall nearly every one of their vehicles. Okay, we've already touched on this about a month and a half ago. Tesla did not have to recall every vehicle. Tesla did a voluntary software update to all of their vehicles. Okay, this was based on a recommendation from the China government and something that they thought, might be an issue or to be a better safety protocol. And Tesla voluntarily went ahead and just pushed out a software update. There's no recall. No vehicles had to come back to Tesla or anything of the sort. And again, as far as Tesla plunging sales, you can catch my video from yesterday, 2 days ago. You can find it right here. And I break down a lot more about the China sales. But let's go ahead and get into, and you can see here in just 3 seconds, there's already all this FUD being spread. But let's see what else Bloomberg has to say.
For more on the story, I want to bring in our Bloomberg News reporter, who else but Ed Ludlow. So, I think when you say it that way, it's just hard to believe. It's just hard to believe because it's a lie. It's just not true. That's why it's hard to believe that every single car in China has been recalled.
Right.
What exactly is happening here?
Well, the numbers themselves are really important to break down because for the first time, we saw this big drop in the number of cars that are built in China, in the Shanghai factory, that are actually delivered to Chinese customers.
And guess why? The reason we saw this drop in number is because Tesla has now made Shanghai their main factory for exports. That's why it went down. You remember that whole Q2 call that happened with Elon and Tesla, where they made an announcement that from now on, the Shanghai factory will be where all the exports come from? Do you remember that? This is just embarrassing for Ed Ludlow. Do a little bit of homework before you just start spewing these things out.
Customers, what's really happened over the last 12 months is that Shanghai has become the center of production for Tesla. Mm-hmm. It's no longer over the water from where we're sitting, right? It's in Shanghai. So look at that chart on your screen. The orange bar is what you're looking at. And we care about that because China is the world's biggest autos market. It's still...
Okay, so again, when we look at this, they're comparing April to May to June, and then July. And they're saying July took a major hit. You can see that the orange is the Tesla local shipments and that the yellow is Tesla export shipments. Now, you see this very juxtaposed position they're in compared to all the other months. Again, guess why? Guess what happened? Now, we'll touch more on this with Elon actually responding to Cathy Woods, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's continue to listen to the FUD from Bloomberg.
Building a lot of cars in China, but now for the first time, more of them are going overseas, mostly to Europe. That's not a bad thing because those are higher margin cars. Tesla's done a lot to localize supply chain in China. It's got a super efficient factory. It makes a lot of money on those cars, but it is worrying about what it signals for the company's performance in that market.
So how important is China to Tesla?
Now, before we just go on, let's go back to this real quick, this chart. Now, keep in mind, if we look at this chart with July, where was the first month that they actually started to completely export out of Shanghai, they still made a point to make sure that they delivered enough vehicles in Shanghai to still outpace all of the, you call them rivals or competitors to Tesla in China. So even on their first month, which is the highest export month for any factory that, is going to be the main hub for exports, Tesla still sold more in China than NIO, than Xpeng, and then Li Auto. Still. Now, is that coincidence? I don't know, but it seems rather intentional in my opinion. Not to say that Tesla would know exactly how many vehicles that NIO, Xpeng, or Li Auto would sell in China, but I'm sure they could make some rather close and pretty spot on estimates.
Compared to the rest of the world,
right.
which the world is their oyster, right?
The United States is still its biggest market, but China was its growth market. It was the engine room for growth because it's the world's biggest auto market. The difference with China is that, and I think we have a chart which shows Tesla's revenue growth by different regions, right? The blue bars are China. You can see that for a long time in recent quarters, that's where the growth was coming from. It slowed down last quarter when these woes started happening, the kind of clash with consumers, regulators coming in.
And is that going to continue to slow?
Well, this latest data set is not a good sign. And we know that, for a long time, Tesla was...
Now, again, keep in mind, so this is all about the Tesla revenue growth by region. And you can see on the right, it's by percent basis. So even in June, if you look at the blue bar graph here, it's still at 100%, okay? And you can see that other is at 150%, and the United States is sitting at about 60%, call it. Either way, it's still growing very well. And if you take the blue and the green together, it still outpaces the previous months. Okay, so this is just silliness, okay? This is a lack of understanding of the new transition making Shanghai the main export hub. And also keep in mind, as Tesla grows, it makes more sense for them to go wide rather than just dense in one area. Yes, the China market's very important, but you also don't want to inhibit yourself from having presence in other markets, okay? At the end of the day, it's very important to make sure you take care of the Europeans. It's very important to make sure you take care of the Australians, right? There's other markets outside of China, so we want to make sure that while we have limited supply, that we try to cast as big of net as possible. Okay, this allows the brand to get out there, it allows people to get excited about Tesla, and allows people to, think, oh, this is what a Tesla looks like. Now I've seen one, rather than just online or commercials, or not that Tesla makes commercials, but channels like this where people can see Teslas, But it's important to cast as wide of a net as possible, and that's what Tesla is doing.
The darling of the Chinese government, they really helped the company get set up there. But now it seems as if they're going to have to do a lot better to improve the situation, not just with consumers, but to allay some of the fears the Chinese government has.
Meantime, Tesla stock has been in a holding pattern. Is this in part due to the China concerns?
It's hard to say. The run-up in Tesla's share price over 2020 was so massive. It's now really underperforming the S&P 500. It's just in positive territory. You see there on your screen the orange line, just in positive territory year to date. So part of that is that we saw such gains last year. We're now kind of normalizing a little bit. I think a lot of folks are waiting on AI Day, which is next week, to see what the next phase of Tesla's life looks like. And indeed, if there's something substantive there and when we might see real self-driving, we know that some of the bulls put a lot of emphasis in their target prices.
So a couple things were said there. First, let's touch on the fact that Tesla's been in a holding pattern. Okay, in this channel, right, investing against the grain, the idea is looking at things from a longer perspective, a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year perspective, right? This is how you get these major type growth, right? These 5, 10, 20x type returns. Okay, these are the type of returns I saw with Apple and Amazon, and they didn't happen overnight. Okay, these are things that you have to invest in for the long haul and understand the true value of the company. Okay, don't be one of those naysayers who used to say, oh, Amazon's so overvalued, they're so overpriced. Even if you added all the books together in the entire world, you wouldn't be able to add up to Amazon's market cap. Okay, that's the same kind of BS thinking and short frame thinking that all of these type of analysts make. Okay, you have to think about the long haul. So when she sits there and talks about how Tesla's in a holding pattern, first of all, joke's on her, because 2 days later, we see where the stock price is right now, right? It definitely broke out of that holding pattern. And, it's, again, I'm not a short-term trader, but there is a very bullish technical analysis set up right now for Tesla to gap up higher in the next week or so. But with that said, it's about the bigger picture. Like, we shouldn't care about what it's doing this year or next year. We should think, what's it look like in 5 years from now? What's it look like in 10 years from now? Okay, now, then he goes on to talk about AI Day. Now, AI Day, that's not something I would get too excited about as far as a investor or as far as what's next for Tesla. Okay, AI Day is for, I think, 3 reasons. Number one, and first and foremost, recruiting. Tesla has arguably the best engineers in the world. Okay, Tesla internally, and Elon has said it recently, they joke that a engineer who leaves Tesla or gets let go from Tesla goes to Apple. They just call that a engineer who couldn't make it at Tesla, or a Apple engineer is an engineer who couldn't, cut it at Tesla. So one thing's for recruiting the best talent in the world. The second thing is to just give it an update on, yes, where full self-driving is, what's going on, what's the progress, talk about Tesla Vision, talk about Dojo, right? A lot of the exciting things they have going on and, some of the problems that they are solving in the world. But then I think it's also, and this kind of ties back to recruiting, talking about some of the new exciting ventures that they might be getting into and that they're exploring and that they're researching into. And this, the whole reason of, giving us a little glimpse into this window, into the doors of Tesla and their AI team is for recruiting. Okay, they want to excite and bring in the best talent in the world. So that's what we should take away from AI Day. Don't think about it as far as the stock moving up or down. If you're a day trader, that's fine. Not really what this channel is about. I respect you and all, but this probably isn't the best channel for you. This is for people who want long-term growth, who want to sit there and take the time to really understand the company. Okay, that's what we're here for. We go all in on these investments and we get amazing returns because of that. Now, with that said, keep in mind, I'm just an engineer. I'm not an investment advisor or an accountant or anything like that. So do your own homework, do your own research, use this channel as a resource, as a tool, but make sure you do your own thing, okay? Don't be a sheep, okay? Don't just follow the crowd. Think for yourselves. Okay, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and take a look at a recent tweet exchange between Cathy Woods and Elon Musk and see what kind of insight we can get in from it. So let's go ahead and take a look at a recent tweet that Cathy Woods put out, and then subsequently Elon Musk responded to it. So here we see Cathy Woods saying, Tesla seems to understand that China would like local champions to dominate electric vehicles, EVs, sales inside the country, but is pleased that Tesla is exporting from China high-quality, high-end EVs, especially to Europeans whose standards for fit and finish design are high quality. And then here we can see the same chart that we just saw in that previous video clip. Now, let me explain a little bit about what Cathy Woods is saying here. She's essentially saying that she does not think that China will ever let Tesla reign completely dominant in China as far as electric vehicles. Right now, we do know that Tesla, aside from a little company that sells vehicles that doesn't even have airbags or anything, wouldn't make it outside of China, Tesla is the #1 EV maker in all of China. Now, what she's saying is that the way China works and how their government works, they're not going to let China dominate the market, right? They're going to make sure that China has a winner within China as well. And it seems like what she's alluding to is, again, looking here at this bar graph, is that we see NIO, we see Xpeng and Li Auto, and we see Tesla, right? This is Tesla in black for China sales. Now, what we see is that China, or I think what she's inferring from this is that Tesla is intentionally holding back so that it doesn't look like Tesla's completely outpacing the entire China market like they were in previous months. Here we see June, here we see May, right? Tesla is just completely, even their exports were essentially beating out NIO, Xpeng, and Li Auto. This could, I think what she thinks is that long term, this could hurt Tesla. if China goes ahead and decides, okay, no, we can't have an American company dominating our Chinese auto industry. We're going to make sure we have a winner, and that could result in, maybe some, kneecapping, if you will, of Tesla. And so it almost seems like she's implying that Tesla's doing this strategically. However, Elon Musk does reply to her. If we scroll down here, we can see him replying to her saying, Tesla makes cars for export in first half of quarter and for local market in second half. So a quarter is 3 months long. We just got done with the first month of the quarter. Okay, and again, Elon's just reiterating exactly what we talked about in our last video, right? Where again, Tesla makes cars for export in the first half of the quarter. So the first month and a half, they focus on exporting those cars because they have the longest point of destination to deliver to customers. And then he goes on to say that in the second half, it's for local market, deliveries and owners and buyers. So the idea is that we have less time in the quarter to get these cars into people's hands and ownership, and the local domestic economy, it doesn't take as long to get it to them because again, it's local. So he goes ahead and talks about that. And then he also says, as publicly disclosed, we are operating under extreme supply chain limitations regarding certain standard automotive chips. And again, he talks about standard because Tesla has managed to do something no other automaker is really doing. Okay, we saw recently Ford is, stopping production of the new Bronco and of the Ford Mach-E or Ford Mustang Mach-E. Again, not a real Mustang, ugliest car I've ever seen. And again, this is coming from a former Mustang owner. I literally owned a Mustang about 8 months ago. Okay, very embarrassing that that car even exists. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. So what Tesla has done is they have been able to take all these other chips that aren't standard chips that you would use in a vehicle. They've been able to go ahead with all of their software developers because unlike these other auto manufacturers, Tesla is actually a software company that delivers their software via their vehicles, and that's their hardware. And they've been able to create and write a new firmware for those chips and make those chips now with that new firmware work for the cars. So circumnavigating the whole chip issue. But there's still issues, right? They have, I think Elon said during the last earnings call, they have about 19 different firmware writings that they're doing for 19 different chips just to keep up with production so that this whole chip shortage doesn't hit them. Other companies like Ford, they're just halting production. They're shutting down until they can get chips. Okay, this is the difference between Tesla and everybody else. But he goes on to talk about this, and that's why he says standard automotive chip. And then what's interesting is he goes ahead and calls out Renesas, I don't know how to say that, and Bosch. These are two companies that Tesla relies on for chips, and he just flat out calls them out. What's interesting though is that Bosch actually just ended its second attempt at a partnership. I think one was with BMW, I forget what the other one was, but it's their second partnership attempt to create robo-taxis and I guess, effectively compete against Tesla. I think we're starting to see that this is a lot harder than a lot of people and companies thought it was. And this is why Tesla's still at the forefront of all of this and what makes next week with AI Day even more exciting. But anyways, I thought this was interesting. I understand where Cathy Wood's premise was coming with this. And the reason that I really jumped to this conclusion of her thinking that Tesla's trying to make sure that they don't outstrip the rest of the Chinese automakers is because she's hinted at this. She said this a lot, where China will not let Tesla be the winner in the Chinese market, that China will make sure that there is a Chinese winner as well, which is fair, right? I can't blame them. It makes sense. You want to make sure you have a local option as well. But yeah, so anyways, I just wanted to get some color on this. I thought that was very interesting. I love that Elon came out and kind of reiterated what we've been talking about. It's one thing for me to say, it's one thing for me to point to quarterly calls and what they talked about there, but it's a whole nother thing to have the man himself come out here and say it again, exactly what we're saying. And it just kind of gives some credence to what we're talking about here, making sure that we're not just being biased or being fanboys and spewing out lies to you guys. So I thought this was cool. Thought it'd be important to look at. So let's go ahead and switch gears. No pun intended. Let's go ahead and take a look at this upcoming bill from Congress that involves EV credits. So here's an article from Electric. And again, it has to do with the new reconciliation bill that the Democrats are trying to force their way through Congress. It's very similar to what happened with like the Trump tax credit and what how the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare went through Congress. It doesn't need 60 votes. It can go by with 50 only, and it's this whole reconciliation process. Now, as part of that, we see here this article about U.S. Senate puts a $40,000 cap on price of electric cars that qualify for EV tax credit ahead of reform. Now, I don't think this actually is something that will get enforced or anything of that nature, or even really make it through. But the reason this is a big deal is mainly because there are really no EVs out there right now that are under 40,000, except for maybe like the Chevy Bolt, which has a huge recall right now because the batteries are catching on fire. And then the Tesla Model 3 standard range, which Tesla stopped making in the United States because there's just so much demand for the Model S long range that they just stopped making it here. So interesting. I think this kind of just kneecaps a lot of the purpose of this credit, but let's see what Electric has to say about this. So the U.S. Senate has voted to approve a non-binding resolution, non-binding. So in other words, I don't think legal action could be taken with this or be enforced. So I think this is more just for a good spirit nature wording within the resolution. But so setting a 40,000 threshold on the price of electric cars that would be eligible for a 7,500 federal tax credit. However, the measure has just passed as the Democrats are working to reform the EV incentive program. As part of the federal budget, the U.S. Senate approved an amendment introduced by Senator Deb Fischer to introduce a limit on the price of electric cars eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit. Only electric cars that cost less than $40,000 could be eligible. Additionally, only buyers with an income of less than $100,000 would be able to apply for the tax credit. Fisher claimed that the incentive was primarily just a tax break for wealthy Americans buying electric vehicles. Now, this just seems a little disingenuous to me. At the end of the day, the whole point of the tax credit is not for a tax for wealthy people or anything. It's to go ahead and accelerate the transition to get off of fossil fuels. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care if you are a multimillionaire or if you're not. I mean, I'm not saying a multimillionaire should get this tax credit, but if someone makes $105,000, apparently I have an update here. If somebody has a $5,000 or $105,000 salary and you're just going to tell them that they can't have it, or $101,000, I mean, it just seems very arbitrary. The whole point of the tax credit is to incentivize people to transition to EVs. So I don't understand the whole, neat capping of it here. And then the whole $40,000, again, you want to have more people buy EVs. And the truth is that right now, the lower range ones or lower cost ones really tend to be between $40,000 and $50,000. Keep in mind, at this point, the average brand new car being bought, whether it's a ICE or internal combustion engine or EV, it tends to be about $42,000. So that's the average cost of a new vehicle in general. So for this to say that it has to be under $40,000 seems just out of place. It seems like somebody just with an outdated understanding of the auto market just pulled a number out of the air is what it seems like. But the whole idea is, and again, Tesla is the one that has created this whole transition, right? Nobody would be doing any of this if it wasn't for Tesla. And the way Tesla sought out to, reintroduce the electric vehicle and the way they were able to be successful was to go down market. So first they started with a crazy expensive Roadster that only wealthy people could afford. As they bought that funded the next iteration, which was the Model S, which again was still very pricey, but even more people could afford it. And then that allowed the funding of the next more cost-effective vehicle of the Model 3, which led to the Model Y, right? So it's this down market effect. So you need people buying those vehicles at those higher prices so that you can create the next more cost-effective vehicle. Now, Tesla is slated to come out with a next model. People call it the Model 2. Some people wanted to call it the Model Q. Just, a joke on Tesla Q people. But the whole point is you need people buying these vehicles at these other prices to afford the more cost-effective one, right? Like this down market approach has very clearly worked. So I don't like this for many reasons, but that's one of the few. Now, Tesla is next level, okay? Fisher's playing checkers. Hell, she can be playing chess if she wants. Elon's playing Go or 3D chess, right? Elon's on another level. So if this were to go into place, I could easily see a scenario where Tesla decides to go ahead and make a new offering for Tesla. So say it's the Model Y. Okay, I can easily see them saying, hey, we have two types of Model Y. We have the standard range, which they'll put out, which would fall probably just under 40,000. He'd probably have a joke on him like it'd be 39,999, right? But I could also see him saying, hey, we'll also offer you a Model Y Plus, which has a bigger battery or the normal long range battery, but we'll sell to you at a cheaper price, so say 35,000. But it has the ability to unlock via software even more range. And so after you buy it for 35,000, maybe they say if you want to unlock the plus aspect and get the long range out of it, you have to pay us another 10 grand. Right? I'm sure that they'll come up with some kind of loophole to just kind of put it back in the face of the government. But anyways, they'll figure this out. I don't think this is that big of a deal. If we scroll down, the Senate approved the amendment 51-48, but it would still need to survive the House of Representatives. The timing of the effort to limit access to the EV incentive is interesting since the Biden administration has made clear that they plan to reform the program. Currently, the leading effort to reform the federal EV incentive in the Clean Energy of America Act, which would increase the incentive up to $12,500 and remove the threshold of 200,000 EVs delivered by manufacturers. Keep in mind, for Tesla, it'd only be 10,000 because 2,500 of this would only go if you use union workers. And as we know, Tesla employees have great benefits. They have stock options. They have great quality of life. They make more money, so they don't have unions. Yeah, weird world we live in, right? But yeah, so with this said, it would still be 10,000, which would be a huge benefit for anyone buying a Tesla. It would give back access to the incentive to Tesla and GM electric car buyers. The proposal would also add price limit on the new electric vehicles eligible for incentive, so currently much higher. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of the article. This is something that's new. We still don't know what the actual effects will be with this, but it's important to at least be privy to it and understand, it's like a little boxing match, right? You move here, what does Tesla decide to do? And, Tesla's probably going to be waving their hand over here and giving a little left hook on, when you're not looking at it. Okay, so that's all I have for today as far as, looking at any kind of articles or videos. I just want to talk about two more things. Now, we all know that AI Day is approaching. It's about 1 week out. This should be very exciting. Highly recommend everybody stream it. It'll be on YouTube. There will be a lot of people, I'm sure, streaming it. Tesla Daily with Rob Maurer will, I'm sure. Solving the Money Problem with Stephen Mark Ryan. I'm sure he'll be streaming it too. So lots of ways to watch it, without having to go through too much hassle. Highly recommend their channels too. I watch them just about every day religiously. But that's going to be an exciting day. It'll give us a lot of insight. We'll get to hear a lot from Andre Karpathy. We'll get to hear a lot from Tesla hardware engineers, and Elon will be the main keynote for the event. And then last but not least, it's Friday. Right now it's Friday when you're watching this. Now Elon Musk, about a week and a half ago, tweeted that moving forward, they would release a new version, update on full self-driving every 2 weeks. So this Friday, he said he'd do it Fridays at midnight Pacific time. This Friday marks that 2 weeks. So I think there's a possibility that we'll see a 9.3 release, or maybe it'll be a beta version 10. I doubt it. I could see more of an iteration to 9.3, but I don't know if they would do that because they never went they never went from 8.2 to 8.3. They went 8.2 to 9.0. So we'll see. But either way, all I'm saying is keep an eye out for that. See what happens. I think Elon went ahead and told us that's going to happen every 2 weeks, just so that he didn't get asked about this every single day on Twitter. So lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. We got FSD, we've got AI Day, we've got everything going on with Congress, and then we just have all the exciting daily stuff we hear from Tesla and Elon Musk. So that's all for today, everybody. I appreciate you sticking to the end. Help us out if you don't mind. And if you like this type of content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. It really helps the channel, helps us grow, helps the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you guys next time. Please stay safe. I love you all. Peace.